Hey y'all, it's Kim. So I know I haven't been on for a while, and I'm also having to record from a different room because my house is loud. But these JFK files are pretty interesting, I'll say the least. I did watch a couple of documentaries. I always watch a documentary. Okay, one is called "What the Doctors Saw," and this had to do with the doctors at Parkland Hospital in Dallas after JFK was brought into the emergency room. And they pretty much confirmed he was basically gone when he got there. But uh, that's what they allege. And then they said that his body was taken to Bethesda in Maryland. I guess it's Bethesda Naval Base or something like that. Anyway, the doctors in Dallas emergency room said that pretty much they think there was two shots and they came from the front, but Secret Service or FBI or somebody came to them and told them, "You better say that it came from the back." So the back would have been like over here, kind of where the big wound is. I don't know if you've ever seen it in the diagrams, which would have kind of come from the back side over here, let's say to his right and up. So kind of like where the book depository would have been in comparison to where his car was on that road. Anyway, I still don't know. I'm just going by what they said because they were like witnesses to it. I'm not saying that I fully even believe everything. I don't believe everything with the Lee Harvey Oswald being the shooter. You know what I mean? I really don't know because they've lied to us about so much stuff. But we'll read this one and a few others. There's several on here. One of these, let me see. This one, I think it pretty much is just showing you how they come up with like the code names and stuff like that. It seems like an instruction manual, so I won't go over this one. I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of this particular one because it's kind of boring. I think it's just like back office type information. But this says memorandum files, MD Stevens, subject the Lee Harvey Oswald case. And this was dated January 29th, 1964. 64, I guess. Anyway, it says according to a newspaper column of Allen and Scott in the Chicago American of 6th of December 1963 on the Oswald case, Abram Chase, legal officer of the State Department, was one of two persons immediately responsible for Oswald being permitted to return to the United States from the Soviet Union in June of 1962. The other individual's name was Llewellyn Thompson, the then ambassador to Russia. Another said to have been involved in the handling of Oswald's case was Samuel Weiss, counsel of the American Embassy in Moscow. Abram Chase, 352-234, who as of 16th of February 1961 was described as the new counsel in state, was granted security approval for liaison contact with J. Foster Collins in the office of the chief of the Covert Action Staff on 6th of March 1961. The request for Chase clearance was a blanket request to permit discussion with him of NSC 5412 or /2, matters on a need to know basis. In September 1961, there was a White House name check request on Chase's wife, Tony Lee Chase, née Handler. In March of 1962, Chase was granted a renewal of his liaison contract clearance with CCA, I guess, on a continuing basis. This time, his contact was Archibald Roosevelt Jr. On 10th of February 1962, Human Events reported as follows with reference to Chase: soft on communism. Representative Francis E. Walter, representative, maybe that's a Republican from Pennsylvania. Chairman of the House Committee on Un-American Activities has scored the new State Department regulations on passports, claiming they would allow Reds denied passports to rifle freely the confidential files of the FBI, the CIA, and other investigative agencies. The man behind the new regulations, which Walter claims violate the Internal Security Act of 1950, is reportedly state's chief legal officer, Abram Chase. Chase, a Kennedy appointee, is an ex-Harvard professor who was Chester Bowles's top legal advisor when Bowles was governor of Connecticut. Walter has introduced legislation to remedy the new passport regulations. And there's a document number. And then this was, I guess, filed again in 1977 for FOIA review. And it says Samuel Wise, counsel in American Embassy in Moscow, who is referred to above, may well be Samuel Griffin Wise Jr., number 74574, SD and SSD, who apparently was once a contract employee on AE Active. The State Department reviewed Wise's file on 2nd of June 1954, and as of September 1962, a Samuel G. Wise was second secretary of the American Embassy in Moscow. At that time, Wise advised in a cable to the State Department. And that looks like something has been redacted here. And then it says Davis's case is very similar to that of Oswald, and he, like Oswald, lived in the Soviet Union for 2 years after his defection and prior to making application for return to the United States. Wise was an applicant for CIA employment in early 1953 and was security approved subject to polygraph on 11th of August 1953. He did not enter on duty, and in September 1953, the office which had been interested in him was no longer interested. On 13th of November 1953, Wise was granted a CSA to permit his use as a contract employee on AE Active in New York City. His CSA was canceled on 24th of March 1958. Wise was named as a friend of William Orville Munsell, number 61693 DL, during an investigation of the latter for possible CIA employment in 1952. Wise, according to Munsell's landlady and social acquaintances in Washington, D.C. during the period of about a year, which ended in April 1952, was the only person she knew by name with whom Munsell was friendly. According to the informant, Wise was a student at Columbia University whose address was 423 Fernald Hall. Munsell was security disapproved for CIA employment in June of 1952 because of his close association on a professional and social basis while attending Denver University from 1946 to 1951 with persons of questionable loyalty. In November 1954, Munsell was of interest to Project FJ Alive with reference to assignment to Dhahran, I guess that's how you say it, Saudi Arabia. However, the interested office withdrew their request on him after security advised of the derogatory information regarding him. Wise, from 1951 to 1954, attended Scarsdale High School in Scarsdale, New York, which was attacked by a citizens group which alleged communist influence in the school system. He has several questionable associates in addition to Munsell. So let's look at the next forms. So this is just one page. This has all of their stuff. I guess this was July 19th, 1963 or 1958. Who knows? It's all messed up here. This says June 12th, 1958. And the chief, WHD, chief of station, Guidad Trujillo, operational, business interests in the Dominican Republic. It says for info only. In addition to minerals exploitation in which Mr. William D. Pauley has substantial investment, negotiations are being concluded for the purchase by Pauley of the Hotel Hamaca in Boca Chica, a resort town near the almost completed new international airport about 30 kilometers east of Ciudad Trujillo. Another activity which is kept very much under wraps is the concession granted Pauley for procurement and worldwide sale of all new issues of Dominican postage stamps. This activity is managed by Edward P. Pauley, brother of William, whose office is in the Dominican Post Office building. The source considered sensitive of the information in paragraph 2 is Mrs. Nora Britzius, a U.S. citizen employed by Pauley in the stamp business. The source volunteered the information on a very confidential basis to Helene Dollerup at the social gathering. And then basically the information who it was sent to Edward F. Stoneset. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. This is it. So here's something about this Pauley dude again. It says memorandum for the record. This was October 20th, 1959. And a lot of these documents seem to be way, way out of order. There's no way to really go through and search, oh, I see this and this and that. No, you can't do, I guess, Control F. It doesn't do that. But anyway, this dude is showing up again. It says highlights of a tape recorded conversation in what's I can't see what this word is. And between Mrs. William D. Pauley or Mr. William D. Pauley and an unidentified Cuban during period 17th to 18th of October. On 20th of October, the undersigned and Owen Faust of WH3 listened to the playback of a tape brought to Washington from, I don't know what this, MI, and given to Colonel King by Mr. Pauley on 19th of October, which was a recording of Mr. Pauley's conversation with the two Cubans during the period of 17th to 18th of October. The first conversation was with an unidentified Cuban believed to be a member of a group of wealthy anti-Castro Cubans, members of which have talked to Mr. Pauley recently about their plans for sabotage of the coming sugar harvest, as reported in UMWA-32, dated 2nd of October. The second Cuban was AMPA or AMPACA 1, a Cuban journalist of operational interest to Station Havana, and a separate memorandum is submitted on that conversation. Let me zoom in a little bit more because these are hard to read. Okay. The unidentified Cuban, who had somewhat of an accent and spoke indistinctly, was difficult to understand. He mentioned a meeting with some of our people who came from Cuba to discuss plans. He said his group had been contacted by a representative of General Jose, I don't know, Torio Pedraza. We'll just say Jose Pedraza. I don't know. I can't see the second, his middle name or whatever that second name is. Leader of Cuban revolutionary groups in the Dominican Republic, who wanted to know what action their group had taken and was told that they had a plan to start sabotage. The Cuban said the Pedraza representative said their group, the Pedraza group, had 4 provinces organized in Cuba, mentioning, is it Camagüey and Santa Clara, and that they had 2 provinces yet to be organized, Havana and Matanzas, something like that. Never heard of it, don't know. The Cuban said his group needed 2 things: moral backing and money. He pointed out that Cubans in Cuba are afraid to start an underground movement and there was no way to raise funds, etc. Mr. Polly gave him no encouragement on the money angle, saying that even if there were Americans willing to run the risk of becoming involved in Cuban revolutionary activities by furnishing money for such a movement, which he doubted, he felt that at the present time it would be like putting money down a rat hole for the following reasons. There's no unity among the anti Castro groups, and there are at least 10 that he knows of who are working absolutely independently of one another. And Castro is in control of the country and has the support of a large number of Cubans, especially the underprivileged. Mr. Polly said he felt the Cuban economic situation was worsening fast, and that if it gets bad enough, a large number of Cubans will turn on Castro. But until that time comes, it will be dangerous to try to organize a revolutionary movement. And there's the documents and all that stuff. Um, and then Mr. Polly asked the Cuban if his group felt they had moral support of the U.S., and the Cuban replied that they wanted U.S. moral support, but whether they had it or not, they felt they were obliged to carry through with their plans. Mr. Polly said he didn't know what to tell him. He would have to think about it and see if anything could be done. He said, having been connected with the U.S. government, I can't get involved in revolutionary movements. Also, said he would hate to see the Dominican government get involved, which might be difficult to avoid with so many Cuban exiles there, but commented that he understood the Dominican government hasn't given them a dime. And it looks like Martha Tarp or Tharp, and then whatever all this stuff, I guess the Caribbean office. So that was that one. And here's a secret memo. Memorandum for the record. This is August 23rd, 1976. Call from John French of DCD concerning Frank Sturgis. The following information was provided to John French by his DCD Miami office on 23rd of August. The information was given to the DCD Miami office by a contact not identified on 23rd of August, who obtained it from Oscar Freely. Freely is writing a book on Frank Sturgis. Sturgis is to appear on the Tomorrow Show at 2 a.m. on 24th of August, which is to be narrated by Tom Schneider. Sturgis just recently returned to Miami from taping the show in New York. While in New York, Sturgis saw Marita Lorenz and obtained from her a book which, according to source, appeared to be cryptographic materials and seemed to relate to Albania. The DCD source saw a few copies of what he described as mathematical matrix material. Sturgis currently, today, 23rd of August, is attempting to contact Senator Baker to turn over the material to him. DCD plans to ask the source to monitor the situation and advise whether the material, in fact, is turned over to Baker. And this is Chris Hopkins. It says, told John French that I guess DCD should alert ADDO and Phil, is this Fendig? Something will do. Anyway, and this is August 23rd. And I guess that's the file number. There's so much stuff in here that's like you don't really know what it means, but it's obviously something. And this is confidential security information. I guess from Bogota. Is that Colombia? And then a number of pages too. There's a report number, file number, and then report made by George, is it Vincent? And report approved. That's his, yeah, I guess Vincent. And then it says this distribution by copy to all of these different. So Guatemala City, is it Quito, Guayaquil, Caracas, Maracaibo, and then I don't know, Phyllis, I don't know, or Files maybe. No idea. Sorry. It says source, operational date, and comments. The information in this report was obtained from a local detective who works for the National Police, an informant of the police in, hold on, I guess in Paris, provided a report to the latter. Hold on, I gotta open this up a little bit more. Okay, to the latter. Oh my goodness. Something about it, something concerning activity, excuse me, of the Colombian delegation, and he added names of delegates of certain countries. This informant is studying in Paris, and he accompanied the delegates to Berlin. It is likely that the interested station have this information, but it is thought it might serve to confirm or possibly add a bit to the material already on hand. Let's see. And then I don't know. Is this Max Gonzalez? Some of this stuff, when it's in cursive like that, I can read it, but some of it's very hard to read. It says aperture card reproduction. So let's see what this has to say. So delegates of Youth Festival in Berlin, Colombia, Bogota, C2, local detective, and then this is August and September of 1951. And the date acquired, January of 1952. Date of report, 29th of January 1952. It says source reports that an informant in Paris has submitted information to the local police concerning delegates of certain other countries to the three festival Mundial de la Juventud. I don't know, held in Berlin in August and September of 1951. These names, together with the comments of the informant, are included in the following paragraphs. It says the delegation of Guatemala consists of the following: Edilberto Torres Rivas, and then I think these are addresses here: Octavio Reyes Ortiz, Hugo Barrios Clee, and Jose Victor Gonzalez. Like I say, these look like addresses next to it. It says in addition to these four, something for Humberto, Alvarado, and something Chavez. It says the following is a list of Venezuelan delegates: Juvenal Herrera, Francisco Mieres, Cordova, Armando. Okay, and these are students and stuff like that. Okay, Juan Pedro Rojas. What is this? A pintor? Delegozo? What in the world? Some of these names. Okay, and then Yolanda Stephens de Rojas. The Ecuador delegates are as follows: Enrique Gilbert, Enrique Winsberg, and then Patriardo. I don't know, Cuevas. These are hard to read. It's because it just runs all together. And then the delegation of Cuba consists of the following. It says Nicholas Guillon is a poet and a writer. I can see that much. And then Santiago Grajales. I don't know. Antonio Nunez. He's got a bunch of stuff. He's responsible. He's dangerous. Prayer is necessary. Something on Paris. I don't know. And then Francisco Garcia Benitez, Jose Comedi. Some of these are very hard to read because it's like the ink is kind of faded into the paper. You can't see it. Let's see about this one. Dispatch. CIA Special Collections released the sanitized. This one's 8 pages. This one's going to be long. Let me come back to that one. This is a classified message marked secret. And then the following section for action is authorized, desensitize. If destruction, cite reasons and coordinate if appropriate. This is from the director in Melbourne. And then whatever these classification codes are, it just says secret. And then where's the date? If it even has it. So December 2nd of 1963, maybe. It says square preliminary checks on recorded conversations reveal the following. No trace, 1952, dark blue brick or Buick belonging Soviet or block installation, CNBR or like Canberra or Sydney. It says no license plate identical to one mentioned, but following NSW variants checked CCC 012. And then 1960 Vauxhall, I guess it's the vehicle. And then it's a two-tone blue. Herman Satram, Satrapinski, 149 Wentworth Avenue, Wentworthville. And then CCC 122, 1949 Standard, Fawn William John Sims, Benelong CCC 122, 1960 Holden, uh, Beige Keith Besky, 28th of Hewitt Avenue, Warunga. No square derogatory on above. It says no identifiable info on Aussie mention, Canberra 0591 and 68838. Fraser's mentioned, same reference, or out MPS. I don't know what those are. Ended first Secretary possible IDW or Willie Saturn Megara has mustache, Russian capability not known to square knots, noticeably close to, I guess, Soviet Canberra. And then let's see here. Square has arranged with PMG liaison officer Ted Young to trace any further calls made. Embassy in close contact. Square representative from Canberra. And then the CS comment has requested information on the Polish driver connected with the Russian diplomatic establishment in Australia. So this stuff just kind of like keeps going and going and going and going. Like you don't know where it's gonna end because there's so many documents. I'm gonna keep going. Not right now, but I'm gonna do probably another one because I only had so much time. But I think I'll start. Let me see, what is this one? Let me go back one page. Let's see. Because I know I was at just 1021. I think I've already got these in here. Yeah, I'll come back. I'll have to do more. Like I said, these are not in any kind of like real order. So you just kind of have to go through them and hopefully catch them all. You may not catch them all because there's so much. But anyway, I'll be back. I'll do some more. Okay. I know that's kind of boring, but whatever. Anyway, I'll make some more on